I lived in Los Angeles for a while. I know how people live out there. It is amazing. People will rent out a single-car garage, a little 10-foot by 12-foot whatever garage, rent it out for $900 a month. And you're like, who could pay for that? Nobody could pay for that. Who could pay for that? Well, if you got 2 families living in there and 4 people are working for $100 a day, that's $400 a day. That's $1,600. Well, $4 a day. It depends on how long you work. So $100 a day, 4 people, $400 times 5. That's $2,000 a week, saying you don't work Saturday and Sunday. That's a lot of money. However, could you imagine 4 families living in a small 1-car garage? No, I can't either. However, these illegal immigrants coming across the border are coming across from a place where they don't have anything to live in. They don't live in anything. They either live outside, they live in the trash, they live in, cardboard boxes, whatever. I mean, the poorest of the poor. To the south of America is a third world nation. Mexico, really sliding off the deep end, being run by drug cartel and mafia. The politicians are bought and paid for. I mean, it's a really corrupt system down there, and the people are paying for it. So when they come up here to America and they find a nice, warm, dry place to live, they're going to take it because it's better than where they come from. However, our standards of living in America, we wouldn't put up with that. And we don't. And we shouldn't allow people to house 4 families like that and to put up with that. I'm not saying make rules and regulations on that. What I am saying, though, twofold. Keep illegal immigrants out and slow the immigration process so that the people here, they're already here, they can assimilate. They can assimilate to the American dream, to America, and become American. It just it infuriates me out there on the left coast. During the 4th of July, a celebration of independence for America, you have the left coast in Los Angeles, where lots of trucks and cars and vehicles will be flying the Mexican flag. You don't hear about that being reported. Nobody's talking about that one. They should be, but they're not. It's just absolutely infuriating that we don't allow these people. We are doing these people a grave injustice by not allowing them to assimilate. They're going to come here, you're going to keep them poor, and they're going to continue to hate. Don't hate, assimilate. Oh, I missed that one up so bad. Don't hate, assimilate. That's what we need. We need assimilation so that they can raise their standards. They can see and live that American dream and become successful. Understand where we come from. Understand why we do what we do. If you want to come to America so bad, come. But become an American when you get here. I mean, I moved to Italy with the military, but I didn't go to Italy to try and change those people. I went there with an open mind, and I bought a translation book months before I was to leave, and I was thumbing through it, trying to figure it out, trying to, see if I can say the words and hello and goodbye and things like that. And I was excited to see a whole new culture, and when I saw that culture, it was amazing. The people there were amazing. They were so excited to know that I was trying to learn their language. That really meant something to them. And I'll tell you what, if you're a foreigner coming from a foreign country, you come to America and you try and speak English to me, I'm going to take that as, I'd be very honored. It would make me so happy to know that you're making an effort to try and speak English. It would be exciting. I would be there and help and do things, but to come to this country and not even try? To be in this country for 20 years, not even know a single word of English or refuse to speak it? How insulting. How absolutely insulting to your host country. We are hosting you, and you don't even care. So I digress. I back off. All right. Let's see. The Wall Street Wall Street Journal. There was we'll get into this news clip here. There's a back and forth conversation between it's on a show called Lunch Break on the internet. I'm not even sure if that's even a real TV show, but her name's Tanya Rivero, and she had on Peter Grant from the Wall Street Journal, and they're discussing Donald Trump and his past from the 90s. Now I'm going to play the first clip for you, and this is a little bit of back and forth with the two of them, and they're talking about Donald Trump, and they're talking about the 90s, where he came from, and what his background is. Is he even qualified to be President of the United States of America? So we go. Clip 1C, Mr. Producer. Okay, Mr. Producer.
As a presidential candidate, Donald Trump has no government record to weigh, but one way to consider the type of president he might be is by examining his business career, and particularly the way he handled his biggest crisis, the staggering debt he and his companies owed in the early 90s. Here with the story is Wall Street Journal news editor Peter Grant. Welcome, Peter. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Set the stage for us, if you will. What was Donald Trump facing in 1990? Did he risk losing his entire empire?
Donald Trump at that point was on the edge of the precipice. He owed $3.4 billion in debt, he and his companies, which he couldn't repay. Even more serious, $830 million of that debt he had personally guaranteed. So his creditors would have been able to push him into bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy, if they had wanted. You also have to remember the time. It was in the middle of a recession. The commercial real estate market was even worse than it was in this most recent downturn. So things were really bad. And people who were in better shape than him had to file personal bankruptcy.
So it was a dark time. And what sort of debt restructuring did he agree to? Was he happy about that?
Well, he was happy because it saved him.
Right.
It saved his career and his company and his organization. But at the time, it was a very painful thing for him to go through. He and a group of banks agreed to a restructuring of a big portion of his debt and a plan in which he basically agreed to sell off a lot of his assets. It was also embarrassing for him. He had to agree to an allowance for his personal and household expenses.
None too shabby, though. $450,000 a month?
Yeah.
That's the most sweet buy on that.
Exactly. Just about sweet buy. But still, for someone of his ilk, of his celebrity and reputation, to agree to that was a bitter pill.
Yes, it was a bitter pill. For some, can you imagine that? Can you imagine agreeing to creditors, agreeing to a bank that you will go on a specific amount of money per week, per month? You'll allot yourself X amount of dollars, which would be a lot less than what you're doing. Can you imagine the invasion into your personal life, your financial life? Think about this. Open up your checkbook to your neighbor. Show your neighbor your bank account. Some of you should show your wife your bank account, or vice versa. Wife show the husband a bank account. Yeah, that's really, really personal. We don't do that. So for her to sit there and laugh, yeah, that's not too shabby. Okay, ma'am, that's his money that he earned. That's his money. That's his lifestyle. And yes, I hear it in your voice. You're contrite, and you're jealous, and you're angry that you don't have that. I understand this. Because I can hear you. But anyways, I also want to bring this up. He said we were in the middle of a recession. Recession is defined as, and this is from, where is this from? Dictionary.com. It's defined as a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in 2 successive quarters, meaning our GDP, or gross domestic product, America, was humming along really strong in the late 80s. It was just soaring in the 80s. So when we get to the 90s, a quarter is defined by 4 months. We were so high, we were bringing in so much, and the economy was doing so great that I am sure that there were probably 2 quarters that were less than 2 previous quarters. Of course there was. But that whole media narrative, they want you to believe we were in a recession right there, right after Ronald Reagan's tenure, his 8 years as President of the United States. We were in a recession right after Ronald Reagan. For those of you who lived during the 80s and the 90s, do you remember the recession? Give me a call. 772-49-SMITH. Call me up. I'll put you on the air, and you tell me about the Great Recession of the 80s and 90s. Early. Into the 80s, early 90s, because that's when they're discussing this. I know there was the bubble.com fallout. I understand that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking prior to that. I'm talking around the early 90s. And so I just don't get it with these people. But it is what it is. So they're trying to expose Trump as being this businessman who's fallen apart, and he's on the precipice, on the edge, looking out into the abyss, to the land of nowhere. He's going to have to go bankrupt. It's just going to be all over with. Well, let me tell you this. I do know a little bit about business. I've studied it. I've been involved in it. I've had my own company at one time. I've founded multiple corporations. I understand what it takes. I know what it takes. And people who don't know about businesses or have never started a corporation, they don't understand. They don't understand the rules. There's a game out there. It's called capitalism. There's a game that the government has put rules and regulations in play that you have to follow if you want to start a corporation, if you want to start a business, if you want to go down that road and become a capitalist. There are rules in play. If you've never played that game, you don't know the rules. So you get these talking heads who, he's going to go bankrupt. No, folks, stop. Bankruptcy is not a bad thing. Bankruptcy is a rule, or a tool, if you will, that you can use in the game of capitalism. That's just the way it works. That's a rule. You're allowed to use it. Now, bankruptcy as an individual person, you may have known somebody, you may have personally filed bankruptcy. Bankruptcy stays on your credit for 7 years, maybe longer, may also play a part in whether you can get a house later on down the road, odds and ends, things like that. So personal bankruptcy is completely different. A corporation filing bankruptcy or restructuring their debt can be a very, very good thing. Take Kmart back in the late 90s, mid-90s, late 90s, and Kmart went and filed for bankruptcy. As soon as they came out of bankruptcy, they bought Sears. Now, granted, I understand what you're thinking. This is a bad move. Well, Kmart going bankrupt is a bad move because they got themselves in that position to begin with. Okay, so they file bankruptcy. As soon as they file bankruptcy, they're out of bankruptcy, they restructured all their debt. They turn around and then buy Sears, which was a bad idea. I don't know who thought that buying Sears was going to be this great addition to Kmart and send you guys through the roof and be head-to-head competitors with Walmart and just go toe-to-toe and we're going to be there. Yeah, where's that now? I think Sears is still on death watch. I'm not even sure. A couple of times that I went into Sears, they have an eyeglass place upstairs where I get my glasses and or contacts. And it's all the way upstairs, so you have to walk all the way through the bottom floor to the middle of the store, then take the escalators up to the second floor, which is in the middle of the store, and then walk all the way across the other side to the eyeglass store. On a weekday, a weekend, a weeknight, whatever, I can make that entire walk and not touch or see anybody, let alone employees. It is amazing. There is nobody in Sears. Sears is complete. I don't know how they make any money. I don't know how they make any money. I'm just blown away. So, bad mistake. Kmart Buying Sears, bad mistake. But they went through bankruptcy, turned around, and then bought.